Today is February 14th, and I wasn't planning on making a video today, but here we are. I've actually been working on another video for the last few months that's longer and more complex than this, but I've been having a really hard time finding the time to make it. And it really got me thinking about the phrase finding time, you know, like when people say like, oh, I just need to find time to do that. But I feel like I've been saying that for everything. And I've been noticing a lot of other people in my life saying similar things like, oh yeah, well, when I have time, I'll do that thing. Or, you know, right now I just don't have the time. For some reason this morning I woke up and I started thinking about that idea of finding time, and honestly kind of how ridiculous that phrase is, because what do you mean finding time? Like, time is here, like it's happening right now in front of you. But I've noticed that we say this a lot, and it feels like a negative thing. And so during lunch today, I had a bunch of ideas suddenly pour out of me thinking about this concept of finding time and how I struggle to navigate that in a lot of ways, especially with this video that I have been working on for months and months. It's really not that complex of a video, but for some reason, I just haven't found the time to do it. I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, why is it so hard to find time to do the things that we want? So I think it comes as no surprise, as the first reason being that we just face so much pressure to be doing so many different things. And to jump right into it, I would say that I think that we as human beings don't need to be doing the amount of things that we are told that we need to be doing. And what I mean by that is that there are so many industries that are constantly fighting for our attention and our money. Like, you think about the fitness industry being like constantly berating you for not being more fit. Like, you don't have a six-pack, what's wrong with you? You don't have like a super muscular ass, like what is wrong with you? Like, you'll never be truly happy until you have like the perfect body. And so, at least for me, and I'm sure most other people get this a lot, like ads and content being pushed towards you, being like, girl, summer's coming. Like, why aren't you working out? Like, you need to work out right now. Otherwise, you're gonna have a horrible summer where you hate your body. And so all of these accounts and ads are being like, you need to be working towards your dream body right now, otherwise you're basically worthless. I mean, maybe not that extreme, but you get the point of feeling this pressure from the outside telling you that you need to be a certain way in order to be happy, and usually it's in like a specific timeline. So like, by this summer, you need to have all of these goals accomplished. And it's not just the fitness industry, obviously. There's so many other industries that are pushing for your attention. Like, you have the entertainment industry, like you need to be watching these shows, you need to be watching these movies to be up to date with what's happening culturally. And other sides of the health industry, like you should be going to therapy, you should be taking these supplements, you should be eating this way, you should be spending, you know, your entire weekend meal prepping, you should be meditating, you should be getting 8 hours of sleep every night, you should be doing all of these things that take a lot of time. And then you also have to come to terms with the fact that you have a job. You have to work, you know, 40 hours a week or more in most cases to afford rent, to have housing, to have food. So in addition to, you know, making the money necessary to survive in this world, there are so many other things like you should be doing. You should be traveling. What are you doing? You should be finding a relationship if you're not in a relationship. If you're in a relationship, you should be, getting married, you should be having kids, buying a house, you know, doing all of these things constantly, like constantly moving to the next level, constantly following this structure of life that we're kind of told that we need to follow. And then also on top of that, I think there's also been more of a movement towards being really independent, like hyper independent, and saying that you should be so self-sufficient that you can handle all of these things yourself, and that you are truly successful if you are able to do all of these things yourself and not ask for any help. Like, you go girl, you're an independent badass bitch that doesn't need anyone else to help her out. But I don't think that is a very realistic expectation given the amount of things that we're supposed to do, you know, work, all these extra activities to maintain your well-being, you know, cleaning the house, you know, these things take up so much time, and I just don't think that it's a realistic expectation to get all of these things done while maintaining your mental health, while maintaining your physical health. It's an impossible task. And so then you come to the realization that, well, I can't do everything that I want. And you're gonna have to choose which things you do wanna focus your time on. But because there are still all of these industries out there that are pushing for your attention, you know, you may try your best to ignore them, but you still feel that in the background, this pressure, like, all right, well, I finally decided that I don't need, you know, six-pack abs, and so I have taken a step back from doing like an extreme workout routine all the time. Like, I just exercise when I can, but I still then feel like in the background I'm still getting ads and content that's pushed towards me that's still pressuring me to get back into working out more heavily than I have been, or watching more shows, even though I've taken a step back from watching so much TV. Like, even though I've chosen the things that I need to not put as much time into, I still feel this sense of dissatisfaction that I'll never be able to have everything that the world says I should have. Even if you don't go on your phone that much, you know, we still see ads everywhere telling us the ways we should be living, the kinds of qualities that we could have by buying a product or by living a certain lifestyle. And there's a lot of messaging out there that makes you feel like you could have done more, but in truth, you've done all you can, and you still feel dissatisfied. And I just think it's this trap that so many of us are stuck in. And so sometimes the trap becomes so bad, and there's so many choices of how to spend your time, that I think we're thrown into this kind of decision paralysis. And I've struggled with this a lot when there's so much I want to do. I want to travel, I want to make more art, I want to eat better, I want to exercise, I want to learn new things, I want to go on hikes, I want to hang out with friends. There's just so much to do, and oftentimes I find myself just sitting at home, not doing any of it, or maybe doing a tiny bit of one of those things. It's hard to be in that state of paralysis because you're constantly trying to think of, okay, what's the best thing for me to do in this moment? What's going to make me feel the most good? What's my shortest route to happiness in this moment? And so we are stuck not making a decision because we're not sure what the right decision is. And the truth is, there is no right decision. I think we just get stuck thinking that we need to be doing the right thing at any given time to maximize productivity or profit or whatever your goal is. I certainly have found myself in that position a lot of times, and I don't know, it makes it really hard to do the things that I want, when there's so many things I do want to do. So yeah, it's really difficult sometimes to decide with all of these choices that we have and all of these things we could be doing to make our life better. It makes it really hard to do anything at all. And I know I'm not alone in that struggle. It's just very overwhelming. However, there is another side of the spectrum where I see a lot of people doing a lot of things, and it's crazy that they're able to get so much done. At least that's what the perception is. You know, you see a lot of people, especially online, being like, here's my daily routine, like here's how I fit in everything that I need to do in the day. And they wake up at like 5 a.m., they don't eat breakfast, they are like constantly running around. And at the end of the day, I feel like that's just a really unrealistic way to live for a lot of people. Like I can't function that fast in the day. Like you hear people talk about slow living and like that whole movement. I'm definitely a slow liver. At least I try to be, to maintain my sanity. But then I find myself not finding the time to do a lot of things because I take my time doing things. I like to enjoy the process. And I've also been thinking about how even companies, brands, big corporate entities have taken notice of the fact that we as the consumers struggle for time. And so there are so many time-saving services out there these days. So you have like delivery services or like any kind of AI that speeds up the process so you don't have to write out a whole document or even make your own grocery list. Like there are so many ways in which you can speed up the way you live life, like all of these tasks that we have to do. And oftentimes you have to pay for these services or, you know, there's some sort of environmental toll that is taken to have these services available. And, you know, I think it's really great in a lot of ways to shorten the process of certain things that are tedious, or once you speed through that task, you have more time to do things you would rather do, like go on a hike or make a nice dinner. Instead of spending hours on the same document, you know, you have AI write it or whatever, and then you can spend more time with your family or something like that, you know? So there's all these ways in which we are speeding up the tasks that we have to do, like the mundane tasks. And I think there is some benefit in that. On the topic of AI, which I'm not going to get into it too much, I think it's also speeding up the process of things that we should be spending more time on. So like art, for instance, any kind of art, graphic design. I think there is a lot of value in spending time on these things and allowing the human mind to do these things, you know? So, you know, we've invented so much technology to speed up processes, and again, there's a lot of benefit in certain things, but I do worry that we're speeding up our whole lives, you know? We're speeding up a lot of aspects of life that we could find joy in, you know, the simple things in life, like going grocery shopping. But instead we're DoorDashing our groceries, you know, we're not spending the time to do something that seems kind of mundane, but I think is part of what we as humans are kind of meant to do, which is go out and forage for your food. You know, obviously we're not doing that in the same way that we used to, at least in places like the Bay Area, which is where I live. I think there are a lot of ways in which we're making certain experiences either too easy or non-existent. And I think because of that, we're taking away a lot of the potential joy of these experiences. And it's all because we're trying to save time. But there's just so much we have to do that we'll never save enough time to do everything that we want to do. And so I kind of worry sometimes in this pursuit to fit all of these things that we have to do into the amount of time that we have, we're not fully enjoying everything. We're essentially speeding through a lot of experiences in our life that we're meant to have. So all that being said, I don't really have a solution to any of this besides just doing the best you can with the time that you have. It's really hard to ignore all the pressure that we feel to constantly be doing more with our time. And it's an absolutely ridiculous expectation to put on ourselves to be living this perfect life and to be taking advantage of every moment and be excelling in every category that we want to excel in, you know, career or any of these other things. And as much as I wish we could just shut off that side of our brain that's constantly saying that you're not enough, you're not doing enough, you're not successful enough, you're not fit enough, you're not well-traveled enough, you're not whatever. I think it's only human to have these thoughts when we're constantly being pushed all of these messages that we should be a certain way. And I don't know, maybe it's because I live in the Bay Area, which is a place where I feel like kids are really pushed to be super successful because we're really close to Silicon Valley. And there's just a lot of innovation here. You kind of feel like you're raised to be this like successful powerhouse, you know, at least that's the pressure. I'm still trying to figure out how I can try and combat all of this pressure to constantly be doing more. You know, all I can really do is constantly remind myself that I am doing the best that I can. And I also think it's important to note that a lot of these messages that we're getting, that we're not enough, that we need to be doing more, are coming from companies that are trying to sell you something. They're trying to tell you that you can only live your best life if you buy into their product, or certain industries are telling you that you can only feel satisfaction if you buy into what their ideal version of their lifestyle is. So I think it's important to remind yourself that you're not crazy, you just live in a capitalistic society. So I hope this resonates. I have a feeling that if you are watching this video, you already resonated with the title, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I hope that this video maybe made you feel less alone in this struggle. That's why I like to make videos like this, is to not only kind of therapize myself by talking about these things, but also hopefully find people out there that resonate with the same things. And I know that a lot of us do. I'm not trying to say that I'm the first person to have any of these thoughts. It's never my intent. But I think it's important to stay aware of how the structures of our society are affecting the way that we live. And I don't think that a successful society is one in which we are constantly made to feel inadequate or stressed. So I hope that as long as we're constantly aware of these issues, we can consistently fight for a structure of society in which we do feel happy and satisfied. And it's really hard to do that sometimes, but we just have to keep trying and look out for each other and make change where we can. So anyways, I'm gonna wrap this up and get down from this hill because it's gonna get dark soon. So I will see you all in my next video. I just have to find the time to edit it. And when I do, I will see you here.